2 weeks passed on the Starseeker as it traveled back to Earth. Olivia spent most of her time filing reports and avoiding Mason. His words about the coming attack troubled her more than she wanted to admit. She had sent a warning to Earth Command, but without proof, she doubted they would take it seriously. On the 15th day of their journey, alarms blared throughout the ship. Olivia rushed to the bridge. "Report," she demanded, taking her seat. "Multiple Araxian warships detected at the edge of our solar system," said Frank, her pilot. His hands moved quickly over the controls. They appeared out of nowhere. Must have used their jump technology. Olivia felt a chill, just as Mason had predicted. "Any communication from Earth Command?" "Yes, ma'am. All research vessels ordered to return immediately. The situation is tense." Lisa looked up from her station. "Commander, incoming message from Admiral Reed." The main screen flickered and the stern face of Fleet Admiral Samantha Reed appeared. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, her expression grim. "Commander Winters, what's your ETA to Earth?" 3 days, Admiral," Olivia replied. "Make it 2. We need all hands. The Araxians have attacked New Horizon Colony." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "And I understand you picked up a stray on Proxima Centauri B. Someone who predicted this attack?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, Admiral. A man who calls himself Mason, no last name, no rank. He was alone on the planet when we found him." "I want him in my office the moment you land," Reed ordered. If he knew about this attack in advance, he might be working with the enemy. The screen went dark. Olivia sat in silence for a moment, then stood. "Frank, push the engines as hard as you can. Lisa, prepare all our research data for immediate transfer when we arrive." She paused. "I need to speak with our guest." Mason was sitting cross-legged on the floor of his quarters when Olivia entered. He didn't look surprised to see her. "They attacked New Horizon," he said. "It wasn't a question. How did you know?" Olivia demanded. "Are you working with the Araxians?" Mason shook his head and stood. "I told you, neither humans nor Araxians are the real problem. Both sides are being manipulated by the Voidborn." "Prove it," Olivia challenged him. Mason studied her face, then nodded. He walked to the pile of armor in the corner of the room. From a hidden compartment in the chest piece, he removed a small crystal, about the size of his palm. "What I'm about to show you, I've never shown anyone else," he said quietly. He held up the crystal, and it began to glow with a soft blue light. The air in front of them shimmered and an image appeared. Tall, slender figures with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Their eyes were pools of swirling stars. Females, Olivia thought, though it was hard to be sure with such alien beings. "The Voidborn," Mason explained. "This recording is from 200 years ago, when they still walked openly among other species." The images changed, showing the aliens speaking with both humans in old-fashioned clothes and mantis-like Araxians. In each scene, the aliens seemed to be offering something. Knowledge, technology. They gave each species different pieces of technology. Mason continued. To humans, faster than light travel. To Araxians, advanced weapons. Each gift designed to eventually bring both species into conflict. "Why?" Olivia asked, her eyes fixed on the images. "Why would they want war?" "They feed on chaos," Mason replied. "The discord between sentient species creates energy they harvest. They've done this to thousands of civilizations before." He gestured, and the crystal showed planets burning, civilizations falling. "This is their pattern." Olivia felt sick. "If this is true, we need to show Admiral Reed immediately." "She won't believe it," Mason warned. "Humans rarely do until it's too late." "I have to try," Olivia insisted. "We reach Earth in 2 days. Be ready." 2 days later, the Starseeker docked at Earth's main orbital station. Security officers were waiting to escort Mason to Admiral Reed's office. Olivia went with them, carrying the crystal Mason had shown her. Earth looked peaceful from space, but the station buzzed with wartime activity. Soldiers rushed through hallways. Officers huddled around screens showing battle plans. The first war in over 50 years had begun, and everyone felt it. Admiral Reed's office was large but simple. Maps of the colonies covered one wall. The other showed the faces of ship captains currently in battle. The Admiral herself stood behind her desk, her uniform crisp despite the dark circles under her eyes. "Commander Winters," she nodded. "And this must be Mason." Mason stood calmly, his hands folded before him. He had been allowed to keep his armor, though the security team had scanned it thoroughly. "Admiral," Olivia stepped forward. I need to show you something. For the next 20 minutes, Olivia and Mason presented their evidence. The crystal's images, Mason's knowledge of void-born technology, the pattern of manipulations spanning centuries. When they finished, Reed leaned back in her chair. Do you expect me to believe that ancient aliens are puppeteering this entire conflict? That both Earth and the Araxian Collective are being played? The evidence, Olivia began, could be fabricated. Reed cut her off. This man appears out of nowhere with technology we've never seen, just as war breaks out. And I'm supposed to trust him? I understand your suspicion, Mason said quietly. But the attacks on New Horizon are only the beginning. The Voidborn want both sides to escalate. They're waiting for you to use the new dimensional weapons. Reed's face hardened. How do you know about those weapons? That's classified at the highest level. Because they're not human technology, Mason replied. The key components were derived from Voidborn artifacts left for your scientists to discover. The same is true of the Araxians' jump drives. Olivia saw the flash of uncertainty in Reed's eyes, but the Admiral quickly masked it. I have 7 colonies under attack and a war to fight, Reed said firmly. I don't have time for conspiracy theories. Commander Winters, you're reassigned to the defense of Earth. As for you, Mason, you'll be detained for further questioning. Admiral, please, Olivia protested. At least let me try to verify his claims. The Starseeker is a research vessel. Give me a small team. Let me investigate. Out of the question, Reed snapped. Every ship is needed for defense, Mason stepped forward. There is another way. The Araxians, they have their own legends about the Voidborn. Their High Commander Kirath might listen where you won't. You want us to contact the enemy? Reed laughed bitterly. During a war? To prevent a greater disaster, yes, Mason said. Reed stood. This meeting is over. Guards take him to holding. She looked at Olivia. Report to Captain Lewis on the Defender at 800 tomorrow, dismissed. As the guards led Mason away, he looked back at Olivia. They'll use the weapons within 3 weeks. When they do, the Voidborn will return, and then it will be too late. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. Images of the alien beings filled her mind. What if Mason was right? What if this entire war was orchestrated by an ancient race for their own purposes? A soft knock on her quarters startled her. She opened the door to find Lisa. Commander, Lisa whispered. Mason escaped custody an hour ago. Security is searching the station. Olivia's mind raced. Any idea where he went? No, but... Lisa hesitated. He left this in his cell. She handed Olivia a small piece of his armor, a gauntlet. It has your name on it. Olivia examined the gauntlet. Etched into the metal in small letters. Olivia. Docking Bay, 12 midnight. She checked the time. 20 minutes from now. I need to report this, Lisa said. Olivia nodded slowly. Yes, in 30 minutes, Lisa's eyes widened. Commander, that's against protocol. I know. But what if he's right, Lisa? What if this war isn't what we think it is? Olivia gripped the gauntlet tightly. 30 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. 30 minutes. Then I sound the alarm. At exactly midnight, Olivia slipped into Docking Bay 12. It was mostly empty, with only a few small transport vessels. No sign of Mason. I wasn't sure you'd come. His voice came from behind her. Olivia turned. Mason stood in the shadows, his armor gleaming faintly. You broke out of detention, she said. That doesn't help your case. I don't have time to sit in a cell, Mason replied. I have a plan to prove everything I've told you. But I need your help. What kind of plan? We take a ship. A small, fast one. We make contact with the Araxian High Command. We show them the same evidence I showed you. Mason stepped closer. Both sides need to see they're being manipulated. Olivia shook her head. That's crazy. It's suicide. Perhaps, Mason agreed. But doing nothing guarantees destruction. He held out his hand. Come with me, Olivia. Help me stop this war before it's too late. Olivia looked at his outstretched hand. Everything in her training told her to refuse, to call security, to follow orders. But the images from the crystal haunted her. What if he was right? If we do this, she said slowly, we'll be labeled traitors, deserters. Only if we fail, Mason replied. If we succeed, we'll be heroes. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Her 30 minutes were up. It was time to choose. Olivia Winters wiped dust from her face mask as the sandstorm finally began to settle. The sky above Proxima Centauri b was turning from angry red to a calmer orange. 6 days on this planet, and this was their third storm. Her team of 5 researchers huddled inside their temporary shelter, waiting for her signal that it was safe to continue their work. "Sensors online," said Megan, the youngest member of the team. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. "Wait, that can't be right." Olivia moved closer. "What is it?" "Human life signs. About 2 miles west of us." Megan looked up, confusion clear in her eyes. "But that's impossible. We're the only humans authorized to be on this planet." Olivia frowned. "Check again." "I did. Twice." Megan pointed at the blinking dot on the screen. "Someone's out there." Olivia looked at her team. They were scientists, not soldiers. But as commander of the research vessel Starseeker, currently in orbit above them, it was her job to investigate anything unusual. Especially on a planet known to contain ruins of the mysterious Voidborn, an alien race that disappeared centuries ago. "Kelly, you stay with the equipment." "Rest of you with me," Olivia ordered, checking her sidearm. She didn't expect trouble, but 6 years in Earth's space program had taught her to be careful. They walked across the crystalline desert, their boots crunching on the glittering sand. Strange rock formations rose around them like frozen waves. The air was breathable but thin, making each step more tiring than it would be on Earth. "Over there," Megan pointed as they crested a hill. A lone figure stood facing away from them, looking up at the sky. He wore some kind of armor, not a standard spacesuit like theirs, but something more fitted, almost elegant. Dark plates covered his body, etched with symbols that seemed to shift in the dying light. "Hello," Olivia called out, her hand resting near her weapon. "This is Commander Olivia Winters of the Earth Science Division." "Identify yourself," the figure turned slowly. It was a man, his face visible through a clear portion of his helmet. He looked human, dark hair, strong jaw, eyes that seemed too bright in the dimming light. He studied them for a moment before reaching up to remove his helmet. Olivia gasped. No one should be able to breathe the planet's thin air without assistance, yet the man stood there breathing normally, his helmet tucked under one arm. "My name is Mason," he said simply. "Mason what?" Olivia asked. "What's your rank? What ship are you from?" "Just Mason," he replied. His voice was deep but gentle, like someone used to speaking softly. "I have no ship. Not anymore." Olivia's team exchanged worried glances. The nearest human outpost was over 4 light-years away. No one could survive here alone. "How long have you been on this planet?" she asked. Mason looked at the sky as if trying to remember. "A while," he finally said. "I came to study the ruins." "The Voidborn ruins?" "Are you with the Historical Society?" Olivia pressed. "No." Mason turned and pointed to a cluster of crystal spires in the distance. "They're not as abandoned as everyone thinks." A chill ran down Olivia's spine that had nothing to do with the cooling evening air. "What do you mean?" "The Voidborn. They're watching," Mason said, his eyes reflecting the starlight in an unsettling way. "They've always been watching." Dr. Pete Hansen, the team's archaeologist, stepped forward. "That's impossible. The Voidborn disappeared over 300 years ago. There's no evidence they still exist." Mason smiled, but there was sadness in it. "There's plenty of evidence. You're just not looking in the right places." He tapped a symbol on his armor and it glowed faintly blue. "These aren't decorations. They're language. Warnings." Olivia had studied the known Voidborn glyphs during her training. The symbols on Mason's armor looked similar but different, more complex, more fluid. Either he was wearing some impressive fakes or he had discovered something no one else had. "You need to come back to our ship," she decided. "Earth Command will want to debrief you." Mason's expression darkened. "Earth is making a mistake. The diplomatic crisis with the Araxians, it's exactly what they want." Olivia stiffened. The tensions between Earth and the Araxian collective were classified information. Either Mason had high-level clearance or he had access to information he shouldn't. "How do you know about that?" she demanded. "I know many things," Mason replied. "I know that humans and Araxians are being pushed toward war. I know that neither side understands they're being manipulated." "By who?" "The Voidborn?" Pete asked with clear disbelief. "Why would an extinct alien race care about our politics?" Mason turned to face him. "They're not extinct. And they feed on conflict. The energy released during war between sentient species, it sustains them." He looked back at Olivia. "They've done this before to thousands of civilizations." Olivia had heard enough. Either Mason was delusional or he knew something dangerous. Either way, she needed to get him back to Earth. You'll have a chance to explain everything to my superiors, she said firmly. Now we're returning to our landing site. You're coming with us. Mason studied her face for a moment. You think I'm crazy? I think you've been alone on this planet too long, Olivia said diplomatically. For a moment, it seemed like Mason might resist. Then his shoulders dropped slightly. Very well. As they walked back, Mason, trailing behind with Pete, Olivia's communications officer, Lisa, moved closer to her. Commander, something's not right about him, Lisa whispered. Those symbols on his armor, I've been scanning them. They're emitting a low-level energy signature unlike anything in our database. Olivia nodded. Keep an eye on him. When we get back to the Starseeker, I want him in a secure room, full medical scan, and I want those armor pieces studied. Later, as the Starseeker broke orbit, Olivia visited Mason in his quarters. He sat calmly on the edge of his bed, his armor stacked neatly beside him. We're heading back to Earth, she informed him. You'll be meeting with Fleet Admiral Reed. That won't help, Mason said. By the time we reach Earth, the first attacks will have already begun. What attacks? Olivia demanded. The Araxians will strike the colony on New Horizon in 13 days. But they're not the real enemy. Mason looked up at her, his eyes now clearly flecked with an unnatural blue light. You humans are so eager to fight, so blind to the game being played. His tone, condescending as if he wasn't human himself, made Olivia's temper flare. You'll be confined to quarters until we reach Earth. I suggest you use that time to come up with a better story. As the door closed behind her, Olivia tried to shake off her unease. War with the Araxians had seemed inevitable for months, but hearing Mason predict the exact target and date disturbed her. She would need to report this immediately. What she didn't know then was that Mason's warning was just the beginning, and that the harsh words between them would set in motion events that would change the fate of two species forever. The small stealth ship cut silently through space. Olivia had made her choice, and now there was no turning back. She had gathered a small team, herself, Lisa, Dr. Pete Hansen, and two others from the Starseeker who believed Mason's warnings. They had borrowed an experimental stealth vessel from the station's research dock. By now they would all be labeled deserters, maybe even traitors. How much longer? Olivia asked, looking over at Mason, who sat at the navigation controls. We're approaching the border of the conflict zone, he replied. The main Araxian fleet should be just beyond the Jupiter defense line. Olivia nodded and turned to her small crew. Everyone remember the plan. We're not here to fight. We're here to make contact. To show the Araxians they're being manipulated just like us. And if they shoot first and ask questions later, Pete asked nervously, then we die knowing we tried. Mason said simply. Olivia studied him. Throughout their 3-day journey, she had watched Mason closely. There was something not quite human about him, the way he rarely needed to sleep, how his eyes sometimes caught the light with that strange blue glow. She had so many questions, but they would have to wait. Araxian ships detected, Lisa announced from the sensor station. A lot of them. The main screen showed dozens of the sleek, insect-like vessels of the Araxian fleet. Their ships were known for their speed and maneuverability, looking almost organic compared to the bulkier human designs. Send the message, Olivia ordered, on all frequencies exactly as we practiced. Lisa nodded and began broadcasting. Attention Araxian fleet. This is Commander Olivia Winters of Earth. We come under a flag of truce with vital information about the conflict. We request an audience with High Commander Kirath on a matter that threatens both our species. We are unarmed and our shields are lowered. For several tense minutes there was no response. The Araxian ships continued their patrol patterns, some turning slightly toward the human vessel. They're scanning us, Mason observed. Let them, Olivia replied. They need to see we're not a threat. Finally, the communication system crackled. An Araxian face appeared on screen. Their features reminded Olivia of a praying mantis with large compound eyes and mandibles that clicked softly when they spoke. This one wore elaborate armor with symbols of rank. Earth vessel, the Araxian spoke in slightly accented English. I am Subcommander Vexlin. You are in restricted space during active conflict. Explain your purpose or be destroyed, Olivia stepped forward. Subcommander, we have evidence that both humans and Araxians are being manipulated by a third party. The Voidborn are not extinct. They are orchestrating this war for their own purposes. We need to speak with High Commander Kirath immediately. Vexelin's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of surprise or agitation. The Voidborn are ancient history. Your attempt at distraction is noted but ineffective. Then explain this, Mason said, holding up the crystal. It activated, projecting the images of the Voidborn manipulating both species. Vexelin fell silent, his compound eyes reflecting the blue light of the projection. We have more evidence, Olivia continued. But we will only share it with High Commander Kirath. This concerns the survival of both our species. After a long pause, Vexelin responded. Maintain your position. Any attempt to move will be met with immediate destruction. The screen went dark. Well, they didn't shoot us right away, Pete said with forced cheerfulness. That's a good sign, right? Hours passed. The tension on the small bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, the communication system activated again. Earth vessel, Vexelin's voice returned. You will follow my ship to the coordinates being transmitted. Any deviation will result in your destruction. High Commander Kirath has granted you 10 minutes of her time. Do not waste it. A small Araxian vessel detached from the fleet and positioned itself in front of them. Follow them, Olivia ordered. They were led deeper into Araxian territory, past patrols and defensive installations. Finally, they approached a massive ship, at least 5 times the size of Earth's largest battlecruiser. Its surface shimmered with a strange, almost metallic sheen that shifted colors in the starlight. The Void Cutter, Mason said quietly, Kirath's flagship. You seem to know a lot about Araxian ships, Olivia remarked. Mason didn't respond, his eyes fixed on the enormous vessel. Their small ship was guided into a docking bay large enough to hold dozens of vessels their size. As the airlock sealed and atmosphere filled the bay, Olivia turned to her team. Lisa, Pete, you're with us. The rest stay here. Keep the engines ready for a quick departure if needed. When the bay doors opened, they were met by a squad of Araxian soldiers, their exoskeletal armor gleaming under the bright lights. Vexelin stood at their head. You will be scanned and disarmed, he announced. Standard protocol. Olivia nodded and they submitted to the security procedures. The Araxians were thorough but not rough, carefully examining Mason's armor with particular interest. This way, Vexelin said when they were finished. They were led through corridors that seemed to be a blend of technology and organic material. The walls pulsed slightly as if alive, and the lighting came from bioluminescent strips that followed their movement. Finally, they reached a large chamber. At its center sat an imposing Araxian female, her exoskeleton a deep purple, a rare color among their kind, signifying age and rank. High Commander Kirath was known to be one of the oldest and most experienced leaders in the Araxian collective. So, Kirath's voice was deeper than Vexelin's, with a resonant quality that filled the room. Humans come to speak of the Voidborn. Interesting timing during a war of your making. A war neither of us started, Olivia replied boldly. High Commander, we believe both our species are being manipulated into conflict. Kirath's compound eyes studied them. You have evidence, I am told. Mason stepped forward, the crystal in his hand. With your permission. Kirath gestured with one long, segmented arm. Mason activated the crystal and the images appeared again, but this time he showed more than what Olivia had seen. The projections included Araxian history, showing how the Voidborn had guided their technological development for centuries. These are old stories, Kirath said, though Olivia noticed a slight vibration in her mandibles. Tales to frighten young ones. Then how do I know about the sacred chamber on your homeworld? Mason asked. The one beneath the Temple of First Contact, where your ancestors first met the star demons, as your people called them. The Araxian guards shifted uneasily. Kirath rose to her full height, nearly 8 feet tall. How do you know of this place? She demanded. It is forbidden to speak of it to outsiders. Because I've been there, Mason said simply. 300 years ago. A murmur ran through the Araxian guards. Olivia stared at Mason in shock. 300 years? Impossible, Kirath hissed. No human lives so long. I never said I was fully human, Mason replied. He removed his gauntlet and pushed up his sleeve. Along his forearm, faint blue lines glowed beneath his skin, similar to the patterns on his armor. What are you? Olivia whispered. Mason didn't look at her. I was an experiment. The Voidborn created hybrids to better understand the species they targeted. Half human, half Voidborn. For centuries, my kind served them without question. If what you say is true, Kirath said, her voice now careful, measured. Why betray your creators now? Because I've watched them destroy too many civilizations, Mason answered. Both humans and Araxians deserve better than to be pawns in their game. Kirath settled back into her seat. We have our own legends of star demons who whisper war into the ears of our leaders. But this evidence, there's more, Olivia said, stepping forward. The dimensional weapons Earth is developing, and I suspect the Araxians have something similar. They weren't our idea. The key technology was discovered in Voidborn ruins. Kirath's reaction confirmed Olivia's suspicion. The Araxians did have similar weapons. These weapons, Mason continued, they're designed to tear holes in space-time. The Voidborn will claim they're meant to destroy enemy fleets, but their real purpose is to create doorways. Doorways for what? Kirath asked. For the rest of the Voidborn to enter our universe in greater numbers, Mason explained. The few who remain here are just scouts preparing the way. For a long time, Kirath was silent, her compound eyes unreadable. Finally, she spoke. What you suggest would require us to halt a war already in progress. Many of my commanders would resist. Commander Vortel, who leads our forward fleet, believes all humans should be exterminated. We face the same problem with Admiral Reed, Olivia admitted. But if enough leaders on both sides understand the truth, perhaps we can stop this before it's too late. Kirath made a gesture and her guards left the chamber. When they were alone, she leaned forward. I will consider your evidence. I will speak with the collective council. But I make no promises. She fixed her gaze on Mason. If you are lying, hybrid, there will be nowhere in this galaxy you can hide from Araxian justice. I understand, Mason said. As they prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. An Araxian officer rushed into the chamber. High Commander, we're under attack! Human vessels approaching from Sector 7. Impossible, Olivia protested. Earth forces are concentrated at the Jupiter line. Mason recovered within human speed. Within hours of their escape from the Araxian flagship, the wound on his shoulder had closed completely, leaving only a faint blue scar. He sat in the medical bay of their small ship, removing the bandages Pete had applied. You heal fast, Olivia said from the doorway. It wasn't a question. Mason nodded. One of many differences between us. Olivia entered the room and closed the door behind her. The rest of the crew was busy piloting the ship and watching for pursuers. This might be her only chance to get answers. You said you were an experiment, she began. That you're part Voidborn. I need to know everything, Mason, no more secrets. Mason was quiet for a moment. I was born in what you would call the year 1723 on Earth. My mother was human. My father. He looked down at his hands where faint blue lines pulsed beneath the skin. My father was one of the Voidborn scouts sent to study humans. They've been watching us for that long? Olivia asked, shocked. Longer. Much longer. Mason stood and paced the small room. The Voidborn first came to this galaxy millions of years ago. They're not from our universe originally. They exist partially in another dimension, feeding on energy released during conflict between sentient species. Like emotional vampires, Olivia suggested. Mason smiled slightly. In a way, but it's more complex. The energy released during war, fear, rage, despair, it creates ripples in space-time that they can absorb. They need it to survive, and they created hybrids like you to help them. Yes, we looked human but had some of their abilities. Longevity, rapid healing, the ability to interface with their technology. Mason tapped the crystal hanging around his neck. We were their perfect spies and manipulators. For generations, my kind served them without question. What changed? Olivia asked. Mason's eyes grew distant. I watched them destroy a civilization called the Zentari. Beautiful people, peaceful. But the Voidborn manipulated them into civil war. Billions died. And for what? Energy, food. His voice hardened. After that, some of us began to question our purpose. We formed a resistance. There are more like you. A few dozen scattered across the galaxy, hiding, gathering evidence, trying to prevent the Voidborn from destroying more civilizations. Mason looked directly at Olivia. Earth and the Araxian Collective are their current targets. Prime feeding grounds. The ship suddenly lurched, throwing them both against the wall. Alarms blared. Commander! Lisa's voice came over the intercom. We've got company! Olivia and Mason rushed to the bridge. The main screen showed 3 ships in pursuit. Not Araxian vessels, but not standard Earth designs either. They were sleek, black with pulsing blue lights along their hulls. Voidborn scouts, Mason said grimly. They know what we're doing. How did they find us? Pete asked from the navigation console. Mason touched his chest where the crystal hung. They can track their own technology. I should have known. The pursuing ships fired, blue energy beams slicing through space around them. One grazed their hull, sending sparks flying from a control panel. Shields down to 60%, Lisa reported. Another hit like that will disable us. We need somewhere to hide, Olivia said, studying the star chart. Somewhere to regroup. Mason pointed to a small dot on the map. Here, Ceres. There's an abandoned mining outpost. My people use it sometimes. We might find help there, Olivia nodded to Pete. Set course, maximum speed. They managed to lose their pursuers in the asteroid belt using the dense field of rocks for cover. The mining outpost on Ceres was built into the dwarf planet's surface, almost invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. As they docked at a hidden bay, Olivia was surprised to see lights and signs of habitation. I thought you said it was abandoned. Abandoned by humans, Mason clarified. Not by us. The airlock opened to reveal a tall woman waiting for them. She looked human at first glance, but her eyes had the same faint blue glow as Mason's. Her dark hair was streaked with silver, and she wore simple gray clothing with the now familiar Voidborn symbols etched along the sleeves. Mason, she greeted him with a nod. I see you brought friends. This is Lydia, Mason introduced her. One of the oldest of our kind. Older than you? Pete asked. Lydia smiled. I was born in 1542, what you might call a prototype. She led them through tunnels carved into the rock, illuminated by the same bioluminescent material they had seen on the Araxian ship. The tunnels opened into a large cavern that had been converted into a command center. Screens displayed news feeds from Earth and Araxian territories, tracking the progress of the war. A dozen people worked at various stations, all with the telltale blue glow in their eyes. Welcome to the Resistance, Mason said. You've been busy, Lydia remarked to Mason. Meeting with Kirath was bold. We need both sides to understand what's happening, Mason replied. Did any of Kirath's messages get through? Lydia shook her head. Hortel has declared her a traitor. He's taken command of the main Araxian fleet. And on your side, she looked at Olivia, Admiral Reed has branded you deserters. There's a bounty on your heads. Olivia wasn't surprised, but it still hurt to hear. What about the dimensional weapons? Have they been deployed yet? Not yet. Lydia led them to a central holographic display. But Earth is preparing to test the first prototype at New Horizon. The test is scheduled for tomorrow. So soon, Olivia felt her heart sink. We need to stop it. That's why we're here, Mason agreed. We need to warn everyone about what those weapons really do. Lydia activated the holographic display, showing a detailed schematic of the weapon. The dimensional cannon creates a controlled tear in spacetime. Earth scientists believe it will destroy enemy ships by exposing them to vacuum energy. What they don't realize is that it creates a doorway. The schematic animated, showing the tear expanding into a swirling portal. A doorway for what? Lisa asked. For them, Mason said grimly. As if on cue, the animation showed shadowy figures emerging from the portal. The rest of the Voidborn, the ones who wait in the space between dimensions. The scouts have prepared the way, and now they want to bring their entire species through. How many are we talking about? Pete asked. Millions, Lydia replied. Maybe billions. Enough to consume all life in this galaxy if they choose. The weight of this revelation settled over the room. Olivia tried to process what it would mean, not just for Earth, but for all sentient life. We need to get a message out, she decided. To everyone. Both humans and Araxians need to know the truth. We've tried, Lydia said. The Voidborn control too many key positions in both governments. Messages get blocked, messengers disappear. Then we need to do something bigger, Olivia insisted. Something they can't ignore or cover up. Mason studied her with new respect. What do you have in mind? The test tomorrow, Olivia said, pointing at the hologram. We need to be there. We need to expose what really happens when that weapon fires. That's suicide, Pete protested. The entire Earth fleet will be there. So will the Voidborn scouts, Mason added. They'll be waiting for the portal to open. Exactly, Olivia said. If we can capture evidence of what comes through, broadcast it to both fleets simultaneously, they'll have to listen. Lydia exchanged glances with Mason. It could work. We have a few ships with advanced cloaking technology. We could get close enough. But how do we broadcast to everyone at once? Lisa asked. We have a communications array, Lydia said, powerful enough to reach all ships in the system simultaneously. But someone would need to deploy it close to the test site. I'll do it, Mason volunteered. We'll do it, Olivia corrected him. This involves both our peoples. Planning continued deep into the night. They studied fleet movements, security protocols, and the weapon itself. Hybrids who had infiltrated Earth's military provided valuable intelligence. By morning, they had a plan. Dangerous and with little chance of success, but a plan nonetheless. As they prepared to leave, Lydia took Olivia aside. You should know something about Mason, she said quietly. He wasn't just any hybrid. He was one of their best. For 2 centuries, he helped the Voidborn orchestrate conflicts across 3 star systems. Olivia glanced across the room where Mason was checking weapons with Pete. Why tell me this? Because guilt is a powerful motivator, Lydia replied. He's trying to atone for many, many deaths. It makes him reckless, willing to sacrifice himself. Her glowing eyes held Olivia's. Don't let him. Before Olivia could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. A hybrid rushed into the command center. Earth ships, he reported. They found us. How? Mason demanded, unknown. But they're deploying troops. We have minutes at most. Lydia sprang into action. Evacuate to the backup location. Wipe the systems. What about our plan? Olivia asked as chaos erupted around them. We stick to it, Mason said firmly. But we need to leave now. They raced back to their ship. Explosions echoed through the tunnels as Earth forces breached the outer defenses. They barely made it to the docking bay when soldiers appeared behind them, weapons raised. Commander Winters, a familiar voice called out. Stand down! Olivia turned to see Captain Frank Chen, her former pilot from the Starseeker. Frank, what are you doing here? Following orders, he replied, his weapon trained on her. Admiral Reed sent us to find you. She knows about the hybrids, Olivia. She knows everything. New Horizon colony hung in space like a jewel, orbiting a gas giant in the Tau Ceti system. Once home to 10,000 colonists, it had been evacuated when the war began. Now it served as the staging ground for Earth's new weapon. From their position behind a small moon, Olivia and her team watched Earth ships gather. Their own vessel, battered from the escape from Ceres, had barely made it. Life support was failing in 2 sections, and the engines could manage only short bursts of power. There's the Dauntless. Lisa pointed at the main screen, where Admiral Reed's flagship could be seen among the fleet. And that must be the weapon. A massive device floated in space near the colony. It resembled a giant ring, with multiple smaller rings rotating inside it. Energy pulsed along its surface in familiar blue patterns. Voidborn technology, Mason confirmed grimly, disguised as human innovation. What's the plan now? Pete asked. Our ship can barely move, let alone get close to that thing. Olivia studied the fleet formations. We need to broadcast the truth to everyone. Show them what really happens when that weapon activates. She turned to Mason. Your crystal can record what comes through the portal? He nodded. And transmit it. But I need to be closer. How much closer? Olivia asked. Mason hesitated. Within 1,000 kilometers. And with no interference, they all understood what that meant. Someone would need to take a small craft, perhaps one of their escape pods, directly into the test zone. A suicide mission. I'll go, Mason said as expected. Olivia shook her head. We need a better plan. One that doesn't involve sacrificing anyone. Before they could discuss further, Lisa called out from the communications station. Incoming transmission. It's from High Commander Kirath. They gathered around the screen as Kirath's face appeared. The Araxian leader looked battle-worn, one of her compound eyes damaged. Commander Winters, she greeted Olivia. You are difficult to find. High Commander, Olivia replied, surprised. We thought Vortel had taken control of the Araxian fleet. He tried. Kirath's mandibles clicked in what might have been an Araxian smile. He failed. Those loyal to me have prevailed for now. I have reviewed your evidence and consulted our most ancient records. You were right about the Voidborn. Hope surged through Olivia. Then you'll help us stop the weapon test? We are already on our way, Kirath confirmed. But my ships cannot enter Earth territory without triggering a full-scale battle. We need a more subtle approach. We need to get to Admiral Reed, Olivia said. Make her understand. She believes we're traitors, Pete reminded her. Mason had been quiet, thinking. Now he spoke up. I have an idea, but it's risky. Let's hear it, Olivia said. We contact Admiral Reed directly. Tell her we have intelligence about an Araxian surprise attack. That should get her attention. Mason pointed to the weapons platform. We request permission to come aboard the Dauntless to share this intelligence. She'll never agree, Lisa objected. She might, Olivia said slowly. Especially if I offer myself as a guarantee. Frank told us she knows about the hybrids. She wants Mason. I can use that. Mason shook his head. Too dangerous for you. This was never going to be safe, Olivia reminded him. And I know Reed. She was my mentor once. If anyone can convince her, I can. They crafted the message carefully. Olivia, appearing alone, contacted the Dauntless. As expected, Admiral Reed was suspicious but intrigued by the offer of intelligence about an Araxian attack and the promise of delivering the hybrid she sought. You have 1 hour, Reed finally agreed. A shuttle will escort you to the Dauntless. Come unarmed and alone with the hybrid. Any tricks, Winters, and I'll execute you myself for treason. When the transmission ended, they began final preparations. Their plan was simple but desperate. Olivia and Mason would board the Dauntless carrying the crystal and evidence. Meanwhile, Kirath's ships would position themselves just outside sensor range, ready to move if needed. If we fail, Olivia told Lisa and Pete, get this ship to Kirath. She'll need all our evidence. As Olivia and Mason prepared to board their shuttle, he took her aside. There's something you should know, he said quietly. About the crystal. What about it? It can disrupt the weapon, prevent the portal from fully forming. But to do so, it needs to be inside the energy field when the weapon activates. His eyes met hers. I always planned for this to be a one-way trip, Olivia. Before she could respond, he continued. The Voidborn created me. In a way, I'm responsible for what they've done. This is my chance to make it right. Olivia gripped his arm. We'll find another way. The shuttle ride to the Dauntless was tense and silent. Earth Marines met them in the docking bay, weapons ready. They were escorted directly to the bridge where Admiral Reed waited. Reed looked older than when Olivia had last seen her, the stress of war etched into her face. Her eyes narrowed as she saw Mason. So this is your hybrid, she said coldly. I expected something more alien. The Voidborn designed us to blend in, Mason replied calmly. Reed circled him, studying. We captured several of your kind at Ceres. They're being studied now. Fascinating biology. Olivia felt sick at the casual way Reed mentioned what must be torture. Admiral, we need to talk about the weapon you're testing today. Ah yes, your claim that it opened some kind of doorway. Reed smiled thinly. Convenient story, Winters. Especially from deserters working with the enemy. We're not working with the enemy, Olivia insisted. In fact, High Commander Kirath believes us. The Araxians have halted their attacks while they investigate. This caught Reed's attention. Is that so? Yet our outposts are still being hit daily. By Vortel's faction, not Kirath's, Mason explained. The Araxians are having their own civil conflict over this. Reed studied them both. Let's say for argument's sake that I believe some of what you're claiming. What exactly do you expect me to do? Cancel a weapons test that could turn the tide of this war? At least delay it, Olivia pleaded, until we can prove what it really does. And how would you do that? Mason stepped forward, holding out the crystal. This can show you the truth. It contains records of previous Voidborn invasions, the pattern they follow. The weapon you're about to test matches their technology exactly. Reed hesitated, then nodded to one of her officers who took the crystal and inserted it into a reader. The holographic display came to life, showing images of the Voidborn, their manipulation of various species, and finally, the portals created by weapons identical to the one Earth was about to test. For several minutes, Reed watched in silence. When the presentation ended, she turned to Olivia. Interesting fiction, she said, but that's all it is. Admiral, please, Olivia tried again. Just delay the test. 24 hours. That's all we ask. Reed walked to the main viewport, looking out at the assembled fleet and the weapons platform. Do you know how many Earth colonies the Araxians have attacked? How many thousands are dead? This weapon could end the war in a single stroke. Or start something much worse, Mason countered. Reed was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned back to them. The test proceeds as scheduled. In 1 hour we make history, She nodded to her guards. Take them to the brig. After the test, we'll decide what to do with traitors. As they were led away, Olivia caught Mason's eye. They had failed to convince Reed. Now they needed their backup plan. In the brig, Olivia paced while Mason sat calmly on the bench. We need to get a message to Kirath, she said quietly. Tell her Reed didn't believe us. Already done, Mason replied, tapping his temple where a faint blue light pulsed beneath the skin. The crystal may be gone, but I'm still connected to it. Lydia and the others are monitoring through me. Olivia stared at him. You can communicate with them? Without speaking. One of the advantages of being a hybrid, he said with a small smile. Kirath's forces are moving into position. They'll try to disrupt the test. That could start an all-out war, Olivia warned. Better than what will happen if that portal opens. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. The guards outside their cell snapped to attention. What's happening? Olivia called to them. One checked his communication device. Araxian ships detected approaching the test zone. All hands to battle stations. Kirath had made her move. The distraction they needed. Now, Mason whispered. He pressed his hand against the cell door, and blue energy flowed from his fingers into the locking mechanism. With a soft click, the door unlocked. They moved quickly, subduing the surprised guards before they could raise an alarm. Mason took their weapons. We need to get to the shuttle bay, Olivia said. Get out to the weapons platform. No, Mason shook his head. You need to get to Reed. Keep trying to convince her. I'll go to the platform. That's suicide, Mason. It always was, he replied gently. But now there's a chance to stop this. I need to get the crystal back and bring it to the platform. It's the only way to disrupt the portal. Before Olivia could argue further, the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Chaos erupted in the corridors as crew ran to battle stations. Using the confusion, they made their way to the bridge. Mason broke off toward the science lab where the crystal had been taken. Olivia burst onto the bridge, which was a scene of frantic activity. Reed stood at the center, barking orders as the view screen showed Araxian vessels engaging the Earth fleet. Admiral, Olivia called out.